Welcome to English in Fluency. I am Alex, and I am absolutely thrilled to have you joining me for this very special extended session today. We are about to embark on a journey together, a journey that is designed to push your listening skills to a completely new level. If you have ever felt frustrated when you are trying to listen to English in a crowded place, or if you feel like your brain just shuts down when there is too much background noise, then you are in the right place. Today is not about perfection. It is about persistence and training your ears to find the signal in the static. We are going to simulate real-world environments, messy and loud environments, and I am going to be right here beside you to guide you through every single sentence, every distraction, and every moment of confusion until you feel confident again. So, please take a deep breath, close your eyes for just a moment to center yourself, and let's get ready to work. Remember, the goal is not to hear every single word perfectly, but to understand the meaning, the emotion, and the message behind the noise. Before we dive into our first story, I want to talk a little bit about what happens in your brain when you listen to a language that is not your own, especially when it is noisy. You see, when you listen to your native language, your brain works like a supercomputer. It filters out the traffic, the music, and the chatter automatically, because it is so familiar with the sounds and the structure of the language. But when you listen to English, your brain is working overtime. It is trying to process the grammar, the vocabulary, and the pronunciation all at the same time. When you add background noise into the mix, your brain can get overwhelmed. It panics. It thinks, "I can't hear the words, so I can't understand." Today, we are going to teach your brain that it is okay to miss a word here and there. We are going to practice focusing on the key words, the stressed syllables, and the context clues. This is called active listening, and it is a skill that will make you sound more natural and feel more confident in every conversation you have. Let's set the scene for our first practice session. I want you to imagine that it is a Friday afternoon in the middle of autumn. The weather is cold and rainy, and you have decided to step inside a popular, cozy bookstore cafe to get a warm drink and relax. This place is not quiet. It is buzzing with energy. You can hear the hissing of the espresso machine behind the counter, steam shooting out with a loud whoosh. You can hear the clatter of ceramic cups on saucers and the sound of a blender mixing up a frozen smoothie. There is soft jazz music playing through the speakers, but the bass is a little too heavy, vibrating through the floor. In the middle of all this sensory noise, two friends are sitting at a small wooden table near the back of the shop. Their names are Liam and Sophie. They have not seen each other for a few months, and they have a lot to catch up on. As you listen to their conversation, I want you to visualize the noise. Imagine the blender going off right in the middle of a sentence. How do they react? They don't stop talking. They just raise their voices a little or pause for a second. Let's listen in. Liam leans forward, resting his elbows on the table, and he shouts over the noise of the coffee grinder that just started up nearby. He asks Sophie how her new job is going, if she is finally getting used to the early mornings. Sophie unwraps her scarf and takes a sip of her tea. She smiles and nods, but she has to speak loudly to be heard. She tells him that the job is actually really great, but the commute is killing her. She explains that she has to take 2 different buses and a train, and it takes almost an hour and a half every morning. Just as she says this, the blender near the counter turns on with a loud buzzing sound that drowns out her voice for a few seconds. Liam laughs and waits for the noise to stop. Then he asks her to repeat the last part. Sophie leans in closer and says that the worst part is the traffic, because sometimes the bus just sits there for 20 minutes without moving. She says she is thinking about buying a bicycle to ride to the train station instead. Liam looks interested and asks her if the route to the station is safe for cycling. He mentions that he read an article about the city adding new bike lanes last month. Sophie shakes her head and says she isn't sure. She says the road is very narrow and there are a lot of big trucks that drive too fast. She looks a bit worried. She tells him that she is a little bit scared of cycling in the heavy traffic, especially during rush hour when everyone is in a hurry. Liam suggests that maybe she could walk to the station instead. Sophie sighs and says she would love to, but it is too far. It would take her 45 minutes to walk, and by the time she got to work, she would be tired and sweaty. She says she needs to find a better solution soon because she is exhausted. Liam nods sympathetically and takes a bite of his muffin. He tells her that he understands, as he used to have a terrible commute when he lived in the city center. But now that he moved closer to work, his life is much better. Okay, let's pause there and take a moment to process what we just heard. That was a lot of information, and we had that blender noise interrupting us. But did you get the main points? Let's break it down together. First, what was the topic of their conversation? They were discussing Sophie's commute to her new job. What was the problem Sophie was having? She said the commute was too long and the traffic was bad. What solution did Liam suggest first? He asked if she could ride a bicycle. Why did Sophie say no to that? She was scared of the heavy traffic and the big trucks. Then, what did Liam suggest second? He suggested walking to the station. And why did Sophie refuse that idea? Because it was too far, and she would get sweaty and tired. Did you catch all of that? If you did, you are doing fantastically. You successfully filtered out the story of the commute from the noise of the coffee shop. Now, let's analyze some of the language they used. Notice how Sophie said the commute was killing her. Of course, the commute is not actually murdering her, but this is a very common English idiom. When something is difficult, stressful, or exhausting, we often say, "It's killing me," or "This is killing me." It adds emotion to the sentence. If you were just translating word for word, you might get confused. But if you listen to the context, she is talking about being tired and buses, you understand she means it is very tiring. Also, listen to how Liam used the phrase rush hour. This is a specific time of day, usually in the morning when people go to work, and in the evening when they come home, when traffic is at its worst. Understanding these fixed phrases is key to B1 fluency. You don't need to analyze the grammar of rush hour. You just need to know that it means busy traffic time. Let's stay with Liam and Sophie for a little longer. Their conversation continues, and the environment gets even noisier. A large group of tourists has just entered the bookstore cafe. They are speaking a different language loudly, and there is a lot of shuffling of feet and bags dropping on the floor. The noise level has gone up significantly. Now, Liam and Sophie have to speak even louder, and they lean in very close to each other's faces. This is a very natural reaction to noise. We reduce the distance between us and the speaker to hear better. Watch how their sentences might become shorter and more direct, because it is harder to speak in long, complex sentences when you are shouting over a crowd. Liam asks Sophie if she has any plans for the upcoming weekend, seeing as she has been so busy with work. Sophie wipes some crumbs off the table and thinks for a moment. She tells him that she desperately needs to relax. She says she might just stay home and read books or maybe watch a movie marathon on Netflix. She asks Liam what he is doing. Liam says he is actually planning to go hiking on Saturday. He mentions that there is a mountain trail about 2 hours outside the city that offers amazing views of the valley. He looks excited as he describes it. He says the weather forecast predicts clear skies and sunshine, so it will be perfect for hiking. Sophie looks intrigued. She asks him if it is a difficult hike. Liam pauses and thinks. He says that the first part is easy, but the last part is quite steep and challenging. He warns her that she would need good hiking boots. Sophie laughs and says she definitely does not own hiking boots. She says the only exercise she gets these days is running for the bus in the morning. Liam teases her, saying that she should come along anyway because they can go slowly. He tells her that fresh air would be much better for her than sitting inside watching movies all weekend. Sophie bites her lip, considering it. She asks him what time they plan to leave. Liam checks his watch and says they are meeting at the train station at 7 o'clock in the morning. Sophie's eyes go wide, and she immediately shakes her head. She says 7 o'clock is way too early for her, especially on a Saturday. She tells him that she needs her beauty sleep. Liam laughs and says that is fair enough. So, they agree that she will skip the hike, but maybe they can meet for dinner on Sunday evening instead, if he gets back in time. Sophie agrees enthusiastically and says she would love that, provided she doesn't fall asleep at the table. Let's check your comprehension again, focusing on the new details. What did Liam invite Sophie to do? He invited her to go hiking on a mountain trail. Why did Sophie say she couldn't go? Well, she had 2 reasons. First, she said she didn't have hiking boots. And second, she said 7 o'clock was too early in the morning. It is important to catch that 7 o'clock detail because that was the deal breaker. What was the compromise they reached at the end? They decided to meet for dinner on Sunday evening instead. Notice the politeness in their language. Even when Sophie refused the hike, she laughed and explained why. Liam didn't get upset. He just teased her a little. This is the social aspect of listening. You aren't just hearing facts. You are hearing the relationship between people. Now, we are going to switch locations entirely. We are leaving the cozy cafe and stepping out into the cold, rainy weather. Imagine you are waiting at a busy bus stop in the city center. It is raining heavily, so there is the sound of rain hitting the pavement, the roof of the bus shelter, and the umbrellas popping open. Cars are driving through puddles on the road, making a splashing sound. Every time a bus drives past, the engine roars loudly, and the wind blows the noise around. It is cold and uncomfortable. You are standing under the shelter with 2 strangers who are also waiting for the bus. Their names are Arthur and Martha. Arthur is an older man, maybe in his 70s, holding a cane. Martha is a younger woman, perhaps in her 30s, holding a large grocery bag that looks heavy. They don't know each other, but the bad weather and the long wait have made them start talking. This is a very British situation, talking about the weather to break the ice. Arthur is looking up at the gray sky, shaking his head. He turns to Martha and comments on how terrible the weather is today. He says he can't remember the last time he saw so much rain in October. Martha smiles politely and shifts the weight of her heavy bag. She agrees with him, saying that she forgot her umbrella at home and she hopes her groceries don't get wet. Just as she says this, a large double-decker bus zooms past them, splashing water near the curb. The noise is deafening for a second. Arthur shields his face with his hand. Once the bus passes, he asks Martha which bus she is waiting for. Martha says she is waiting for the number 42, which goes to the shopping center. Arthur nods and says he is waiting for the same bus. He mentions that the bus schedule seems to be off today because they have been waiting for nearly 20 minutes. Martha looks down at her phone to check the time. She sighs and says that the app says the next bus is delayed by another 10 minutes. She looks worried and tells Arthur that she has ice cream in her bag, and she is afraid it is going to melt before she gets home. Ironically, even though it is cold and rainy outside, Arthur chuckles at this. He tells her not to worry too much, as a little bit of melted ice cream never hurt anyone. He then asks her if she lives far from the shopping center. Martha says she lives about a 10-minute walk away. Arthur says that is convenient. He tells her that he lives a bit further out, near the old park, so he has a longer journey. He complains a little bit about the bumpy roads, saying that the bus ride always makes his back hurt. Martha sympathizes and offers him a spot on the bench inside the shelter, as she sees he is standing. Arthur thanks her gratefully and slowly sits down, groaning slightly as he rests his legs. Let's review this interaction. It was simple, but the noise of the traffic and the rain makes it tricky to catch the softer words. What were Arthur and Martha bonding over? They were bonding over the bad weather and the late bus. What was Martha worried about inside her grocery bag? She was worried about the ice cream melting. Where was Arthur going? He was going to the old park, which is further than the shopping center. And what did Martha do? That was kind. She offered Arthur a seat on the bench. Did you notice how Arthur reacted to the bus driving past? He shielded his face. These are visual and audio cues that help you understand the context, even if you miss the words. If you are at a bus stop and a loud bus drives by, you naturally expect a pause in the conversation. If you are listening and the audio goes fuzzy or silent for a second, don't panic. Just wait for the noise to pass, just like Arthur and Martha did. Let's explore a different kind of noise now. We are going to move to a household environment. Imagine a large family kitchen on a Sunday afternoon. It is a chaotic scene. Someone is washing dishes in the sink, and the water is running loudly. A dog is barking in the backyard because a mailman is walking by. In the living room nearby, a television is turned onto a sports game, and the crowd is cheering loudly. In the middle of this domestic chaos, a brother and sister are trying to have a serious conversation at the kitchen table. Their names are Ethan and Chloe. Ethan is trying to tell Chloe something important, but he keeps getting distracted by the noise. This is a very relatable situation. Sometimes the hardest place to concentrate is in your own home. Ethan is tapping his fingers on the table, looking nervous. He leans towards Chloe and tells her that he needs to borrow some money. Chloe is peeling a potato, and the knife is scraping against the skin. She asks him how much he needs. Ethan takes a deep breath and says he needs $200 to fix his car. The dog in the backyard starts barking very loudly, making it hard to hear. Ethan has to raise his voice and repeat that his car broke down yesterday and he can't get to work without fixing it. Chloe stops peeling the potato for a second and looks at him with concern. She asks him what is wrong with the car. Ethan explains that it is the engine, making a strange clicking sound. He says the mechanic told him it would be expensive to fix. The television in the other room roars with applause as someone scores a goal. Ethan waits for the noise to subside. Chloe puts down the potato and wipes her hands on a towel. She tells him that $200 is a lot of money, and she is saving for a vacation next month. She asks him if he has asked anyone else, like their parents. Ethan shakes his head and says he doesn't want to ask Mom and Dad because they will be disappointed that he didn't take care of the car. He looks at Chloe with pleading eyes. He promises that he will pay her back as soon as he gets his next paycheck, which is in 2 weeks. Chloe sighs and looks away, thinking. The water in the sink stops running, and the house suddenly feels a bit quieter. She turns back to him and says she will lend him the money, but only on one condition. Ethan asks what the condition is. Chloe smiles and says he has to drive her to the airport next week for her flight. Ethan lets out a huge sigh of relief and agrees immediately. He thanks her and says he owes her big time. Let's see how you handled that chaotic kitchen scene. What did Ethan need from Chloe? He needed to borrow $200. Why did he need the money? To fix his car engine so he could get to work. Why didn't he want to ask his parents? Because he didn't want them to be disappointed in him. What condition did Chloe set for lending him the money? He had to drive her to the airport next week. This conversation required you to filter out the dog barking and the TV cheering to get the negotiation details. It shows that even when there is a lot of static, the emotional tone of the conversation comes through. Ethan was nervous and pleading. Chloe was hesitant but kind. Tuning into emotions is a great hack for listening. If you can hear that someone is asking for a favor, even if you don't hear the word borrow, you can guess what is happening based on their tone. We have covered a coffee shop, a bus stop in the rain, and a noisy family kitchen. Now, I want to give you some advice on how to practice this in your real life without needing a script. You can create your own background noise listening exercises at home. Find a podcast or an audiobook in English that you find interesting. Put your headphones on. Then, open a window to hear the street traffic. Or turn on a vacuum cleaner in the room. Or play a video of a crowded restaurant on your computer or television. Try to follow the story in your headphones while the other noises are happening. Start with the background noise at a low volume, and as you get better, turn the volume of the background noise up. This trains your brain to separate the English sounds from the environmental sounds. It is like going to the gym for your ears. It might be tiring at first, but you will get stronger. Another technique is called shadowing, but with a twist. Usually, shadowing involves repeating what you hear immediately. To make it harder and better for focus, try shadowing while there is music playing. Play a song with lyrics in your native language or English, and try to repeat a sentence from a podcast at the same time. It is very difficult. your brain will want to listen to the music instead. But if you can force yourself to focus on the speaker's voice and repeat their words despite the music, you are building incredible mental focus. This focus will transfer to real conversations. When you are at a party and someone is talking to you, you will be able to ignore the music and focus on them effortlessly. Let's return to our stories. We are going to go to a completely different environment now, one that is very stressful for many people. Imagine you are at a large train station. This is an old station with a high, arched ceiling. Because of the echo, every sound is magnified. There are announcements booming over the loudspeaker every few minutes. The train arriving at Platform 4 is the delayed service from... Then there is the sound of rolling suitcases on the tiled floor, which is a constant rumble. There are shouting vendors selling newspapers and snacks. In the middle of this echoing hall, a student named Ryan is asking a police officer for directions. This is a high-stakes conversation because Ryan is running late and he is stressed. Ryan runs up to the police officer, whose name is Sergeant Miller. Ryan is out of breath and holding a backpack. He asks Sergeant Miller how to get to the Central Business District train line because he is late for a job interview. Just as Ryan asks, a train whistle blows loudly, piercing the air. Sergeant Miller holds up a hand to tell Ryan to wait for a second. Once the whistle stops, the officer points down a long corridor. He speaks in a loud, booming voice that echoes. He tells Ryan to go down the escalator, turn left at the bottom, and then look for the yellow signs. Another announcement starts playing, listing all the cancelled trains. Ryan looks panic-stricken. He shouts, "Sorry, left or right?" Sergeant Miller leans in closer and yells, "Left! Turn left after the escalator." He also adds that Ryan needs to hurry because the last train leaves in 10 minutes. Ryan nods frantically and starts running, but he stops and turns back for 1 second. He asks if he needs a ticket or if he can tap his card. Sergeant Miller shouts back that he can tap his card at the gate, so he doesn't need to buy a ticket. Ryan thanks him and sprints off towards the escalator, weaving through the crowd of people with suitcases. Sergeant Miller watches him go, shaking his head slightly, and then resumes his post, looking calm amidst the chaos. This was a fast-paced interaction. Let's break it down. Where was Ryan trying to go? To the Central Business District line? Why was he in a hurry? He was late for a job interview and had only 10 minutes. What were the directions Sergeant Miller gave him? Down the escalator, turn left, and look for yellow signs. Did Ryan need to buy a paper ticket? No. The officer said he could just tap his card. Did you notice the urgency in their voices? The echo of the station makes it sound even more urgent. When you listen to English in echoey places like stations or gyms, the sound quality is often poor. Words get cut off. But usually, the most important words, directions like left, right, 10 minutes, are spoken with more stress, so they cut through the echo better. We have one more scenario for this section. Let's go somewhere a bit more relaxing, but still noisy in a different way. Imagine you are at a public outdoor swimming pool on a hot summer day. It is school holidays, so the pool is full of children. There is constant splashing, screaming, and laughing. There is the smell of chlorine in the air. You are sitting on a plastic chair near the snack bar. The lifeguard is blowing a whistle repeatedly to tell kids not to run. Sitting next to you on the chairs are two mothers, Amanda and Karen, who are watching their kids swim. They are chatting while keeping one eye on the water. The background noise is constant high-pitched screaming and splashing, which makes hearing lower-pitched adult voices a bit difficult. Amanda is rubbing sunscreen on her arms. She asks Karen if her son, Leo, has started his swimming lessons yet. Karen sips her iced water and shouts over the noise of a group of kids doing a cannonball into the water nearby. She says, "Yes, Leo started last week, but he was absolutely terrified." She says he cried the whole time and refused to put his face in the water. Amanda laughs and says, "That is normal." She tells Karen that her daughter was the same way when she was little. Amanda suggests that maybe Karen should buy Leo some goggles, because sometimes the water in their eyes makes it scary. Karen thinks that is a great idea. She says she will go to the sports store later today to buy a pair. Suddenly, the lifeguard blows the whistle loudly for a break. All the kids have to get out of the pool for 10 minutes. The noise level changes from screaming to the sound of wet feet slapping against the concrete and the chatter of cold children. Karen takes the opportunity to ask Amanda about her plans for the evening. She asks if Amanda wants to come over for a barbecue. Amanda says she would love to, but she has to work late to finish a project. She looks disappointed. She says maybe they can do it next weekend instead. Karen says that is fine and tells her to let her know when she is free. They both start packing up their bags as the kids come running over, shivering and asking for towels. Let's check the final comprehension for this section. What were the mothers discussing at the pool? They were talking about Karen's son, Leo, and his fear of swimming lessons. What advice did Amanda give Karen? She suggested buying Leo some goggles. Why did the noise change in the middle of the conversation? Because the lifeguard blew the whistle for a break, and the kids got out of the water. Did Amanda agree to the barbecue? No, she had to work late, so they postponed it to next weekend. This scenario tests your ability to follow a conversation that is constantly being interrupted by high-frequency noises, like kids screaming. High-pitched noises can actually be more distracting than low rumbles because our ears are sensitive to them. If you could follow Amanda and Karen, you are doing excellent work. Now that we have warmed up our ears with these initial environments, we are going to increase the difficulty level. We are going to step into scenarios where the noise is more aggressive, the speech is faster, and the stakes are higher. Remember, the strategies remain the same. Focus on key words, watch for context clues, and don't panic if you miss a word. Let's dive into some new, more challenging situations. Our first new scenario takes place in a fancy, bustling restaurant. It is Friday night, and the place is completely packed. Every table is full. The atmosphere is lively, but for someone trying to have a conversation, it is a nightmare. There is the clinking of silverware against plates, the sound of glasses clinking in toasts, and the low hum of 50 different conversations happening all at once. To make matters worse, there is a three-piece jazz band playing in the corner of the room. The drummer is tapping the hi-hat, and the double bass is thumping a steady rhythm. Sitting at a small table near the kitchen door are two characters, a waiter named Tom and a regular customer named Linda. Linda is trying to order her dinner, but the music is getting louder, and the kitchen door keeps swinging open with a whoosh sound, releasing bursts of noise and heat. Tom is holding a notepad and pen, looking patient but busy. He leans over Linda's table and asks her if she is ready to order. Linda smiles and nods, but she has to raise her voice to be heard over the double bass solo. She says she would like to start with the tomato soup, but she is allergic to cream, so she wants to make sure it is made with vegetable broth. Just as she says this, the drummer hits the cymbals with a loud crash. Tom looks confused and asks her to repeat the last part. Linda laughs, leans in closer, and speaks slowly and clearly. She says, "No cream, please, just vegetable broth." Tom nods and writes it down. He then asks her what she would like for her main course. Linda says she is thinking about the grilled salmon, but she asks if it comes with potatoes. The kitchen door swings open, and a waiter shouts, "Table 4 is up!" Tom waits for the shout to finish, and then tells Linda that the salmon comes with roasted potatoes and asparagus. Linda looks happy and says that sounds perfect. She will have that. Tom asks if she would like any wine or water with her meal. Linda asks for a glass of white wine, but she specifies that she wants something dry, not sweet. The music changes tempo and gets faster. Tom has to shout the question, "Would you like to see the wine list?" Linda shakes her head and says she trusts his recommendation. He suggests a Sauvignon Blanc from New Zealand. Linda agrees. Tom writes it all down, rips the paper from his notepad, and wishes her a pleasant meal before rushing off to the next table. Linda sits back, enjoying the music, now that the difficult part of ordering is over. Let's pause and analyze that interaction. Ordering food is a classic B1 task, but add a jazz band and a busy kitchen, and it becomes a test of nerves. What was Linda's specific request about the soup? She wanted to make sure there was no cream, and that it was made with vegetable broth because of an allergy. This is crucial information. If Tom missed the no cream part, she could get sick. What main dish did she order? The grilled salmon with roasted potatoes and asparagus. And what kind of wine did she ask for? A dry white wine, specifically a Sauvignon Blanc. Did you notice how Linda handled the noise? She didn't just shout louder. She leaned in and spoke more slowly when the music crashed. This is a brilliant strategy. When it is loud, slow down. Clear, slow speech cuts through noise better than fast, loud shouting. Now, let's transition to a completely different soundscape. Imagine you are standing outside a residential building on a Tuesday morning. The city is doing construction work on the street. There is a massive pneumatic drill, also known as a jackhammer, breaking up the concrete right next to where you are standing. The sound is piercing, a jack, jack, jack rhythm that vibrates in your chest. There is also the sound of a large truck reversing, making that loud beep, beep, beep noise. Two neighbors, an older gentleman named Mr. Henderson and a young woman named Chloe, are standing on the sidewalk trying to have a conversation about a package delivery. They are both wearing jackets because it is a bit windy. The noise is intermittent. The drill stops for a few seconds, then starts up again. This forces them to talk in bursts. Mr. Henderson is holding a package that was left at his door by mistake. He sees Chloe walking out of the building and waves to get her attention. He has to shout because the drill starts up. He waits for a break in the noise. When the drill stops for a moment, he quickly shouts that he has a package for her. Chloe looks surprised and walks over. The truck starts beeping nearby. Mr. Henderson has to wait again. Once the beeping stops, he explains that the delivery driver left the box at his apartment. Number 4B, instead of hers, 4A. He asks if she has been waiting for it. Chloe nods and checks the label on the box. She says yes, these are her new textbooks for her college course. She thanks him for bringing it down. Just then, the jackhammer starts up again, louder than before. Mr. Henderson puts his hands over his ears for a second. Chloe shouts a question, asking him how his day is going. Mr. Henderson laughs and motions that he can't hear her. He points to his ear and shakes his head. They both stand there awkwardly for a minute, waiting for the workers to take a break. When the silence finally returns, Mr. Henderson tells her that apart from the noise, he is doing well. He mentions that he is going to the grocery store to buy some milk. Chloe says she is heading that way too, so they can walk together to escape the noise of the construction zone. They start walking briskly away from the drilling sound, relieved to be moving. How did you find the construction noise? That is one of the hardest sounds to listen through because it is so aggressive and high-pitched. It physically hurts your ears, which makes you want to stop listening. Let's check the details. Why were Mr. Henderson and Chloe shouting? Because of the pneumatic drill and the reversing truck. What was the mix-up with the package? The driver delivered it to apartment 4B, Mr. Henderson, instead of 4A, Chloe. What was inside the box? College textbooks. And where did they decide to go at the end? To the grocery store together, to get away from the noise. Notice that when the noise was too loud, they used body language. Mr. Henderson pointed to his ear and shook his head. In real life, if you can't hear, use your hands. Pointing, nodding, and shrugging are universal ways to communicate when the sound fails. We are going to stay outdoors for our next scenario, but change the location to a crowded train platform, specifically an underground subway station. Subway stations have a unique sound. There is the rumble of the trains approaching, the squeal of metal wheels on metal tracks, and the wind rushing through the tunnel. There is also the constant ding-dong of the warning bells when the train doors are about to close. In this scene, we meet two students, David and Sam. They are rushing to catch a train. They are running, which makes them breathless. They are carrying heavy backpacks. The station is crowded with commuters, so they have to weave through people while talking. David looks at his watch and panics. He tells Sam that they have exactly 3 minutes to get to the other side of the station. Sam asks him why they are in such a rush. David explains that they have a study group meeting at the library at 10 o'clock, and if they miss this train, they will be late. Just as he says this, a train on the opposite platform arrives with a deafening screech of brakes. David has to grab Sam's arm to pull him along. Once the noise of the arriving train fades a bit, Sam asks David if he remembered to bring the notes from the last lecture. David stops running for a second to check his bag. He freezes. He pats his pockets and looks worried. He says he thought he put them in his bag, but he doesn't feel the folder. The announcement system clicks on with a static burst, and a voice says, "Stand back from the platform edge." The announcement is loud and distorted. David shouts over the announcement that he thinks he left the notes on the kitchen table. Sam looks frustrated. He says they really need those notes because the exam is tomorrow. A train on their platform pulls in. The doors slide open with a hiss. The rush of people getting on and off creates a wall of noise. David and Sam step onto the train. They find a spot in the corner. David says he will call his roommate to see if he can drop the notes off at the library later. Sam says that is a good plan. The train doors close with a loud beep, and the train starts to move, drowning out their conversation as they begin their journey. Let's recap this stressful underground scenario. Why were David and Sam running? They were late for a study group meeting at the library. What did David realize he forgot? He forgot the lecture notes, which he thinks he left on his kitchen table. What was Sam's reaction? He was frustrated because the exam is the next day. What solution did they come up with while on the train? David decided to call his roommate to bring the notes to the library. Listening while you are moving or out of breath is difficult because your own heart rate is up. You have to concentrate harder. Did you notice the specific sound of the train doors closing? The beep is a universal warning sound. In many cities, that sound means get on or get left behind, so it triggers a sense of urgency. Understanding the context helps you guess that the conversation is about time and pressure. Now, let's move to a more modern, indoor environment. Imagine you are inside a large, open-plan office. It is a busy tech company with a startup vibe. There are no walls, just rows of desks. The noise here is different. It is the clicking of keyboards, the ringing of phones, and people shouting across the room to each other. Someone is using a photocopier that has a loud, rhythmic chunk sound. In the middle of this office, two colleagues, Jennifer and Mark, are standing near the water cooler, trying to discuss a confidential issue. They have to keep their voices down, which makes it even harder to hear because the office noise is quite loud. They are whispering, which requires intense focus. Jennifer is holding a plastic cup of water. She looks around to make sure no one is listening. She leans in close to Mark and whispers that she heard a rumor about the company merging with another firm. Mark looks surprised and asks where she heard that. Jennifer points towards the manager's office and says she overheard a phone call. Just then, the photocopier starts jamming, making a loud grinding noise. Mark waits for it to stop. He asks Jennifer if she thinks people will lose their jobs. Jennifer looks worried and says she doesn't know, but she is nervous. She says that if they merge, the whole marketing department might change. Mark takes a sip of his coffee and tells her not to worry yet. He says that rumors are often wrong. He suggests they focus on their current project instead of worrying about things they can't control. Their conversation is interrupted by a loud celebration from the sales team across the room. Someone cheers, "We got the contract!" and everyone starts clapping. Jennifer and Mark have to stop talking completely. Once the clapping dies down, Jennifer sighs and says, "Mark is right." She says she needs to finish her report by 5 o'clock anyway. She thanks Mark for listening to her worries. Mark smiles and says, "That is what friends are for." They walk back to their desks, the sound of clicking keyboards welcoming them back to work. This office scenario tested your ability to listen to whispers amidst loud, erratic noises. What was the rumor Jennifer heard? That the company is merging with another firm. Where did she hear it? She overheard a phone call in the manager's office. What was Mark's advice? He told her not to worry and to focus on their current project. This is a great example of social listening. You are picking up on the emotion. Jennifer is worried. Mark is reassuring. Even if you missed the word merge, you could guess from the words rumor, nervous, and lose jobs that they were talking about something negative happening to the company. Context clues are your best friend when the audio quality is poor or people are whispering. Let's change the pace again. We are going to a high-energy environment, a gym. Imagine you are in a large fitness center. There is loud, upbeat dance music thumping from the speakers. Boom, boom, boom. You can hear the heavy thud of weights dropping on the floor. There is the squeak of sneakers on the rubber floor. People are grunting with effort as they lift weights. In the center of the room, a personal trainer named Carlos is training a client named Lisa. Lisa is struggling with an exercise. Carlos is shouting instructions to motivate her, but he has to compete with the music and the noise of the gym. Carlos is standing next to Lisa, who is lying on a bench lifting weights. He shouts at her to keep her core tight. Lisa is breathing heavily, her face red with effort. She asks him how many more reps she has to do. Carlos looks at his stopwatch and yells, "5 more! You can do it!" The music changes to a song with a very strong bass line. Carlos leans down and shouts that she needs to exhale when she pushes the weight up. Lisa tries to follow his instruction, but she is getting tired. She drops the weight with a loud clang. She sits up, wiping sweat from her forehead. She asks Carlos if she is doing better than last week. Carlos gives her a high five. He tells her that she is much stronger and her form is perfect. The noise of a vacuum cleaner starts up nearby as the cleaning staff begins to clean the floors. Carlos has to speak up even louder. He asks Lisa if she wants to try a new exercise for her legs. Lisa looks hesitant but nods. Carlos leads her to a machine and explains how to adjust the seat. He has to demonstrate because she can't hear his instructions over the vacuum and the music. He shows her where to put her feet and tells her to push with her heels. Lisa tries the exercise and says she can really feel it in her muscles. Carlos nods and says that means it is working. He tells her to do 2 sets of 12. Let's check your gym listening comprehension. Who were the 2 people in the gym? Carlos, the trainer, and Lisa, the client. What was Carlos shouting to Lisa while she was lifting weights? To keep her core tight and exhale when she pushes up. How did Lisa feel about her progress compared to last week? Carlos told her she is much stronger. What new noise interfered towards the end? The sound of a vacuum cleaner. The gym is a difficult place because the music is designed to be loud and motivating, not clear for conversation. But in this scenario, the interaction was physical. Carlos used hand signals and demonstrations. When you listen in English, if the audio fails, look for the nonverbal context. In a script, you can't see it, but you can imagine it. When the vacuum started, Carlos demonstrated because he knew she couldn't hear. Visualizing these actions helps you understand the flow of the conversation. We have one final scenario for this session, and it takes place in a supermarket. This is a place we all go to, and the noise is specific and repetitive. Imagine you are in a large grocery store. There is the sound of shopping cart wheels squeaking on the linoleum floor. There is the constant beep, beep, beep of the checkout scanners. Every few minutes, there is an announcement over the intercom. Clean up on aisle 3, or special offer on fresh fruit. In this environment, we meet a grandfather named Grandpa Joe and his granddaughter, Emily. Emily is about 7 years old. Grandpa Joe is trying to shop, but Emily is running around and asking questions, making it hard for him to concentrate. Grandpa Joe is pushing the cart slowly. He is looking at a list on his phone. Emily runs up to him with a box of colorful cereal. She begs him to buy it. Grandpa Joe looks at the price and shakes his head. He tells her that it is too much sugar, and they have cereal at home. Just then, the intercom dings and a voice announces a flash sale on baked goods. Grandpa Joe gets distracted and misses what Emily says next. He asks her to repeat herself. Emily says she is hungry and wants a cookie. Grandpa Joe sighs and tells her to wait until they pay at the checkout. He pushes the cart towards the produce section. He picks up some apples and puts them in a plastic bag. The bag makes a crinkling sound. Emily starts singing a song loudly, distracting Grandpa Joe again. He turns to her and tells her to please use her inside voice. He says they need to focus because Grandma is waiting for them to cook dinner. He checks his list again and realizes he forgot to get milk. He asks Emily if she remembers which aisle the milk is on. Emily points towards the back of the store and shouts, "It's in the cold place, Grandpa." Grandpa Joe laughs and says, "She is right, the dairy aisle." As they walk to the back of the store, the floor cleaner machine drives past them, a large machine buzzing loudly. They have to step to the side to let it pass. Grandpa Joe complains that it is impossible to hear himself think in this store. Let's review the supermarket scene. What did Emily want Grandpa Joe to buy? The colorful cereal with too much sugar. What else did she ask for? A cookie, because she was hungry. Why was Grandpa Joe distracted? Because of the intercom announcements and Emily singing. What did he forget to get? Milk. And where did they have to go to get it? The dairy aisle, or as Emily called it, the cold place. This scenario shows how everyday noise can break your concentration. Grandpa Joe was trying to read a list and listen to a child at the same time. It is a multitasking nightmare. If you could follow Grandpa Joe's shopping list despite the distractions, you are doing great. As we come to the end of this extended practice, I want to talk about the psychology of listening in noise. When you are struggling to hear, it is normal to feel a spike of anxiety. You might think, "I don't understand. I am failing." But I want you to reframe that thought. Instead of thinking, "I can't hear," tell yourself, "I am hunting for the meaning." It is a game. You are a detective. The noise is just a puzzle to be solved. In every scenario we did today, the restaurant, the construction site, the subway, the office, the gym, and the supermarket, you successfully found the meaning. You found out about the allergies, the package delivery, the study group, the office rumor, the workout plan, and the shopping list. You missed some words, sure, but you never lost the plot. Thank you so much for sticking with this entire session. I hope you are feeling the burn in your ears in a good way. Remember, the only way to get better at listening in noise is to listen in noise. Don't shy away from chaotic environments. Embrace them. Every time you catch a word in a loud place, you are winning. Keep your ears open, stay curious, and keep practicing. I am Alex, and I am so proud of your hard work. Goodbye for now.